If you're currently suffering from an injury and are constantly frustrated with how you're feeling about it, stay tuned my friend, because in today's video I'm going to show you my 5 best tips to boost your physical and mental well-being so that you also don't have to make all the mistakes I made when I suffered from all the injuries I have done in the past. So let's get into it. Crew members, welcome back to the channel, my friends. How are you doing today? If this is your first time here on this channel though, you need to hop on board the Game Training Express now, my friend, and you can do so by subscribing to the channel and turning on post notifications, because if you're new to bodyweight training calisthenics, this is your go-to channel and will be your home of bodyweight strength training. Right, so as a brief background with me, really I have suffered quite a few injuries in the past, and mainly I tend to experience chronic injuries. So injuries that aren't so painful in the short term, but they take a lot of time to heal. So that said, when I was about 16, I twisted my pelvis when playing sports, which was very long and frustrating recovering from. I pulled my tendon adductor in a football match just over a year ago. And then in May 2018, a few months after starting my calisthenics journey, I then gained elbow tendinopathy, which was actually from improper strength training. And after all the other imbalances, trigger points I picked up along the way, I'm now back pain-free, and so would now like to share with you the most valuable lessons I've learned from these experiences. So the first thing you have to do when you're injured is to acknowledge the 5 whys, and the 5 whys is actually something I learned in school, but anyway, that's kind of irrelevant. But the 5 whys being what, where, when, who, and why. Don't think it's in that order, but my point is that you got to understand that everything happens for a reason. And so if you're injured, you've got to really look at it from an objective point of view. And of course, you've got to know what the injury is, when it happened, why it happened, and exactly what caused it. Because if you don't actually acknowledge what your injury is or why it happened in the first place, it's most likely that you're going to actually make the exact same mistakes in the long term that will only either re-injure your current injury or cause injuries elsewhere in your body, which is exactly what you don't want. So in order to know the 5 whys and fasten your recovery as fast as possible, the second step you want to do, my friend, is just see a physio. In fact, this isn't a step, this is an order. And although some information on the internet, such as this YouTube video right now, can be very valuable, you understand though, your most valuable asset is your time. So you don't want to really be wasting hours and hours procrastinating on the internet and not making much progress with your injury. The fastest way you're going to heal an injury is by seeking guidance and advice from an expert who will know exactly what your specific injury is, where it is, why it happened, and will then give you specific rehab and rehabilitation methods to optimize your recovery process. So I'll give you a standard example of a young 17-year-old stubborn Jake who didn't want to see a physio and in fact tried to do it all himself. So when I got injured in a football match and had an adductor injury, I tried rehabbing this injury myself for 8 weeks, just from endlessly searching on the internet. And so I made some progress a bit, and then I'd stagnate and fall behind, and then I would try out new exercise to get me closer back to usual training, but then I'd aggravate it and make it worse. And so I was like, right, I'm gonna fix my shit up. So I went to see a physiotherapist, potentially the best in town, because I desperately wanted to get back into not only working out properly, but also getting back into football. And funnily enough, after he assessed my adductor, he saw, you know, what was right, what was wrong, what actually primarily would have caused it. He then gave me and guided me through our specific and intense rehabilitation course, which was about 6 weeks. And then boom, I was back into football, I was back into working out stronger than ever. So the take-home message is pretty simple. Learn the principles rather than trying to reinvent the wheel. Just go and see a physio, get specific guidance from them, and just do what they say, because what they are telling you will work. And not only that, your recovery process will be far faster, and you actually come back from the initial setback far stronger too. Now, after you've seen a physio, you've got to understand that setbacks are also extremely valuable learning opportunities when you actually approach them correctly. So life is all about seasons, you know, we go through highs and lows, and I mean, after all, summer wouldn't be as beautiful as it is we didn't actually experience the colder winter in the first place. And it's the same with your life, in the sense that the highs you experience won't feel anywhere near as good or feel as satisfying to accomplish if you didn't actually experience the setback and the low point in your life in the first place that caused you to take action to later succeed, if that makes sense. So from my perspective, things such as injuries are really a blessing in disguise, because funnily enough, I was reading a book from the GOAT, Tony Robbins, called Awaken the Giant Within, which is a book I highly suggest you read if you haven't already. And so part of the book tells you to list 5 experiences in your life, 5 most life-changing and transforming moments in your life that have shaped you to be who you are today. And funnily enough, my three of the 5 experiences were actually my most negative. So one of those experiences being when I twisted my pelvis, I wouldn't have actually got into fitness in the first place. If I hadn't pulled my tendon adductor, I probably wouldn't have started calisthenics in order to seek a new style of training to finally gain the results I actually wanted with my fitness journey. If it wasn't for my elbow tendinopathy injury, you watching this video right now probably wouldn't be on this channel, because the 2 videos on this YouTube channel currently that pretty much made the majority of the total view count were purposely made to actually work around my injury problems I had at the time. And those 2 videos have what have contributed to the majority of the growth of JG Calisthenics on YouTube. And so this leads me to step number 4, which is to really do something today that your future self will thank you for. As in, when you have a setback or an injury and you can't do the things that you typically do, this gives you the opportunity to work on other things elsewhere in which you were actually neglected. So, for example, when I had my tendinopathy injury, I worked a lot on mobility and locomotion because I was so stiff, rigid, vulnerable to injury, that I had to do something to fix this problem. And doing like mobility and locomotion, I could do this without any pains in my body. And so during this time when I couldn't do what I usually would do in my strength workouts, I did everything I could in the meantime without pain or aches, which has later in the long run made me a much stronger, more resilient individual. Although it's much easier said than done, I actually think that injuries can be a really good thing in the sense that usually an injury will happen because of a weakness in the body. And so when you're injured, it then forces you to focus on your weak links. And your weak links is really what actually hinders your progress in the first place. So if you take the time to fix your weak links and strengthen them, you'll find that when you come back into usual training, you're actually a lot stronger than you were before, because you have fixed the imbalances and weak links in the kinetic chain. So if you're injured right now, instead of having that closed mindset and fixed mindset of, oh, I'm injured, I can't do anything, I'm miserable, you have an open mindset in the sense of thinking instead, how can I work around this injury? What can I do now that my future self will thank me for when I'm no longer injured? And so in order to do this, you have to focus on step 5, which is to focus on the present, in the sense that you got to accept where you currently are and accept that your injury will take a lot longer to heal than you originally expected. If you follow the above steps, the previous steps, you don't really need to fear about not getting back to your strongest point, because you will inevitably improve day by day. When you seek professional guidance, fix your weak links and focus on other areas in your life in which can be improved or optimized, it's inevitable that you're going to come back to your strongest state far sooner than you originally thought. So really, you've got to think long term with the situation, because really, as I've had to learn the hard way with previous injuries, chasing instant gratification is what not only actually causes injuries in the first place, but will only make things worse during your rehab and rehabilitation phases if you try and do too much too soon. And remember, a wise man will learn from the mistakes of others, whereas a fool will only learn from his own. Injuries are extremely valuable learning lessons only if you have the right mindset to approach them correctly. Keep your head held high, follow all 5 steps every day, and you got this, my friend. And so I say, if you enjoyed this video, you like my content, you enjoy watching every single second of this video, then make sure to give this video a thumbs up and comment down below that this came at good hand to you. And also, I'm curious to know, what are your thoughts, experiences, and tips you would give when it comes to injuries and suffering setbacks that hinder you from reaching the goals you originally set to desire? And how did you turn these negative experiences into a positive experience? And what are the best tips you would give to someone else who may be going through the same process in which you had to do so in the past? Leave your comments down below, as everyone on board the Gain Strength Express would be interested to know. And so, as that's enough for me today, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, my friend, and as always, catch you in the next video.